All right, welcome. If you are new to my channel, thanks for joining in. Hopefully this will provide you with whatever it is that you're looking for today. And if it doesn't, then I hope you find it also. For those of you who are returning, thanks for coming back. This is going to be a reading for the sign of Leo for the month of April of 2023. And we are just going to get into it. See if I've got, we're going to start off with some dice. And then I'm going to move into astrology cards and then tarot. All right, Leo. So you've got 6 and 4, which is 10, which would reduce down to a 1. So 1, 4, 6, and 10 are important numbers. Seems pretty packed. I think right now there's a lot going on where you're really trying to kind of complete something in order to start anew, but I think it requires not only letting something go, but maybe even coming to terms with something potentially. And I don't think it's in a negative way. I think there's some sort of like karmic balance that's a part of all of this. I think it's a lot deeper than just some mundane stuff. So things could just feel very, I want to say like heavy around you, but almost electric, because I do feel like I said, you've got a lot going on. So let's go ahead and pull some astrology cards. I also think there's some challenge in this because it may require a particular decision for you to make. Or maybe you're just juggling two things right now, or too many things, and it can feel like a lot. Okay. Yeah. All right. So you've got Solar Flare in the reverse, which is a card for activation. So maybe a lot of this is kind of like the pullback moment, especially since we have the card of Sagittarius and then Aries. Sagittarius is all about expansion and Aries is all about action. And when I think of Sagittarius, I think of pulling back the bow and focusing and studying the shot and then releasing. So I feel like that's what this is about, right? We're trying to wrap something up, or we're trying to complete something. We're trying to prepare ourselves to launch or prepare ourselves to move forward. And maybe this is just the weird part. That's what I like to call it, the weird part, where it's kind of like tying up all these loose ends, or getting into this process of preparation, and maybe even kind of like strengthening some elements of things in your life, or finding ways to strengthen yourself before you kind of lean into this. So let's get into it. That's funny. I was going to say failure to launch. And you've got all reversals right now. But all right. On the bottom of the deck, we have Judgment in the reverse. So like I said, wrapping things up before we start a new cycle. Judgment in the reverse can often be a signal that there are some things that we are revisiting, or some things that we are mulling over or really looking at before we kind of go through this process of coming to a final conclusion, or a more cosmic conclusion. It is a card that usually resides with karma as well. Before we hit the world and make that completion and then move into the next phase. So the 10 and the 1 are pretty important here. I feel like you are very withdrawn right now. I feel like you are very reserved right now. I feel like you're very introspective right now. And once again, I feel like there's something brewing inside of this. I feel like there's this energy that's kind of like churning inside of you. We've got the 6 of Wands in the reverse with the Page of Wands in the upright underneath that. I do find it fascinating that all the cards on top are in reverse and all the cards on the bottom are in the upright. So there's a very interesting kind of mirroring energy or reflective energy going on here. But with that 6 of Wands in reverse and the Page of Wands in the upright, I feel like just like Sagittarian energy, it's one of those things where it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, you always get back up. And it doesn't matter how many failures you kind of have to endure in your life. You always find a reason to keep going, or you always find a reason to start anew. And I think that's kind of what this energy is all about. And maybe that is what you're looking at. Maybe that is the cycle that you're trying to close out, or that is the cycle that you're trying to find completion with, is more around the question of um, why can't I get to where I want to be, or why can't I have what it is that I want, or why can't I create what it is I want to create? Why do the things that I always give myself to always seem to fail, or why is it that all the things I give myself to um, never seem to like get anywhere? Like it always gets to this middle point and then it just kind of, you know. So I feel like that's the thing, failure to launch. Like I feel like that is the thing that's on your mind. Um, Now, with the Five of Wands in the reverse is the next card, with the Knight of Wands underneath that. Definitely a lot of fire energy here. I'm going to be honest, some of this can read as like burnout. Some of it can read as needing to make sure you really pace yourself this month, or that you really try to find this delicate balance of the way that your output of energy is. Because I feel like this is more about tending to the hearth, or tending to that inner fire, tending to maybe even the physical body, in order to really cultivate the kind of energy that it is that you need in the near future. This can also be some form of a conflict or unresolved conflict that is kind of coming in and out of your life, or maybe it feels like, there is this energy or this issue of um, this interjection. That's what it feels like. It feels like interjection. Like it almost reminds me of what happens when somebody picks at a scab, or what happens when um, someone does something and it ends up kind of exacerbating a prior wound or exacerbating a prior injury. Like there's something here around that where either this is a literal thing or it's figurative, where there's like a situation or a person or a thing that like somehow does this. Because then the next card that we have is the Six of Swords in reverse, with the Six of Cups underneath that. So there's like revisitation here of the past, or there is reflecting on the past, or there is this inability to move on from the past, or like something always pulls you back there. Definitely very 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. And maybe that's the other thing that gets frustrating in terms of the whole like failure to launch theory, is it feels like you always get 2 steps forward and then something pulls you right back. Or it feels like you start getting all this momentum and all this energy, and it feels like things are coming together, and the next thing you know, you're pulled right back into some shit. And it's like, I think it's because it's not that you are not ready or prepared for that level of change, or that level of evolution, because that is something that happens with the Judgment card in reverse as well. It's not that you're not ready for that level of evolution. It's just, I feel like it's all about loose ends. I feel like there's something here where the moment you really decide that you want to move forward, it's like, not so fast. We haven't taken care of this. Or if you were to move forward and this wouldn't be uh, um, if there wouldn't be closure here, or if something wouldn't be brought to completion, whether it's in a conversation between you and a family member or a friend, or something is like, I don't want to say mundane as fixing a car, but it's just like there's something around having to complete one thing before you can begin another. Because otherwise, if you start moving forward, there are these things that are going to like come in and almost muddy the water for the thing that you're creating. Because it's either going to elicit a emotional response, or it's going to elicit some form of like a mental response, or affect you in some way that challenges the new thing. Because then the next thing that we see is the Knight of Cups in the reverse and the Death card. And I mean, look at that. Perfect mirror image. Perfect mirror image. That is what is so fascinating about this reading for you guys, is that everything is a mirror. And that may be how you feel right now. You may feel like everything in your life right now feels like it's a mirror, or there are things that are mirroring you, or it feels as if you're having conversations with people and seeing how their experience is mirroring your own, or hearing something and it's somehow relevant to your current predicament. Because I do feel like there's a really strong element of intuition here. But it almost feels like you're keeping all of this to yourself. It doesn't feel like the kind of thing where you're digesting and processing this and kind of like walking around and talking about it. It's just like you're really sitting with yourself and you're really taking these things in. And I think you're allowing it to guide you. I feel like you're allowing it to become this new kind of inner compass. You're really learning how to work with it. And I think you're learning how to work with cycles in general. This feels like very fine tuning. But with that Knight of Cups in the reverse and the Death card, I feel like the whole reason for this is because I think when you make this next leap, because I think this is a big fucking leap, definitely from what you've been experiencing, I think it requires you to literally let everything go. I think it requires you to let the past go. I think it requires you to let everything in your life go, to really kind of surrender to the experience of what's occurring. And I think there's a lot there. And I think that there's a lot to realistically process or realistically deal with. And it's not that I don't think you've been doing it, because I can see where you have. It's just like I said, you get to this point where something pulls you back, or you get to this point where you can feel as if the tide is starting to push against you and you can no longer swim. And so you just have to release, and you have to kind of see why it is that you're going back to shore and that you have to start all over. And I feel like it's because not only do the conditions have to be just right, but I feel like there's so much, forgive me, I know this probably sounds really weird. It's almost like there's so much personal training that you have to do. Like there's so much you have to get right. There's so much you have to master. And as a fixed sign, that's your whole life. As a fixed sign, part of all of this in this lifetime for you is to be really challenged, because you're going to be experiencing these levels of evolution that are just like off the charts. You know, I've really found that people with like fixed sign placements, they often are probably some of the greatest manifestors, but holy shit, did they get in their own way. And it's often because they don't allow themselves to let go, right? Or they don't allow themselves to release, whether that's like anxiety or fear or things. It's very hard sometimes, even if they're constantly met with experiences that push them to. So it's like learning. There's so much learning here. And I think another reason that this is coming up is because I think you're tired of feeling as if you're kind of lost at sea or wandering aimlessly. I think you're very ready to get serious, or you're very ready to really discover something. So let's see what the overall kind of like outcome is for April, especially with this Knight of Cups in reverse and the Death card, because I'm kind of curious what this is really about. Yeah. Like I said, you're really ready to get serious. Because I think you've been through a lot. You've got the Five of Cups in the reverse and the Nine of Swords. I really feel like there's a lot that you've had to work through, or there's a lot that you've been trying to process, or a lot that you've been trying to release. Yeah, and you're being pushed to do it right now with the Tower. It's when let go or be dragged, right? That's the whole point of the Tower, let go or be dragged. But the Tower can also be these monumental revelations that happen, and sometimes they feel as if they're like immediate and overnight, where you wake up and all of a sudden everything's changed, or your perspective has changed, or your perception has changed. And within this experience, yeah, I think you're just tired of like things being confusing, or things being I think you would like a little certainty in your life, because with that 7 and that 8, you're really wanting to leave uncertainty behind. You're really not wanting to question yourself right now. You're not wanting to have things in your life that put you in this thing of, confusion, or having to ask all these questions, or having to wonder what's going on, or having to wonder what it is that's in front of you exactly. You just want certainty. I mean, for some of you with that Hierophant card, this really is about looking at a higher calling, or this really is about tapping into your higher calling, or maybe even working with higher levels of particular institutions. It could even be about teaching in particular, also learning. So whether this is you becoming a teacher, or it's you becoming almost like this understudy in some way. I think you're really ready to commit to something that feels greater than yourself. And once again, expand. Like, I really feel like you want to expand. Even though the Hierophant is really connected to Taurus, there are strong themes of Sagittarius being involved in this. And once again, with that Sagittarius card, it's all about expansion. It's all about growth. It's about overcoming obstacles. It's about allowing different experiences, different cultures, different belief systems, for you to engage with them in a way that really helps open you up and open your understanding up. Even philosophy. So I think through these trials and tribulations, or through these experiences, and through all of this pain and all this heartache and all this suffering, I really think that you've kind of created this philosophy, or I think that you've really come to terms with internally what a particular maybe life philosophy is for you. And I really think you're trying to live by it, and I think you're trying to stick to it. But at the same time, with this 2 of Pentacles, there's still a lot that you're trying to juggle. So I think be prepared for the month of April, because I think the month of April is really going to be pivoting you in pretty important ways. And I think it's going to be challenging you to try to achieve this very particular form of balance in your life. But I think more than anything else, you're getting more and more clear on your own philosophy, the way that you need to operate, and what it is that you need to do next. And I think that for the most part, this has everything to do with letting go, or it has to do with, really releasing yourself from the ties of the past, because you have changed. And I think that's the greatest thing that you can see and feel here, is that it's like, I don't want that anymore. Like, I'm so tired of this being my story, or I'm so tired of this being a thing where, I'm constantly like pulled back into these fucking situations that just, like, I don't want it, I don't want it. That's not what I want for my life. I'm ready to get serious about what I want for my life. I'm ready to work really hard for what I want for my life. And I'm not going to stop until I achieve that. So, pace yourself, okay? Like, because I really do. I think burnout is pretty strong here, or potential for burnout is pretty strong here. And I think the more that you feel you have things tugging at you, or the more you feel that you kind of have, I don't want to say like people fucking with your peace, that you're going to get very aggravated. But I think that is the thing. I think that is the thing, because you're just like, yeah, I'm ready for change. It might be scary, it might terrify me, but I'm ready for this to stop, and I'm ready to fucking embrace the truth, or like, just really kind of cleanse and clear, whether that's like an energy experience or it's a mental one or an emotional one, because you're tired of this. Like you're tired of either people picking a fight with you or people wanting to bring conflict into your life, or maybe even the way in which that feels inside of yourself. Like because of this pain or because of these experiences, you're tired of having that um, almost like buried inside of you because it seems like it continues to draw this type of energy to you and you're just done. Okay? Like you're just done for sure. You're very, very done. You already know what you need to do. I feel like you are so in tune right now. It hurts. I feel like you can see things for what they are. I feel like that there is a certain level of knowledge you have here. Anytime I see that high priestess, not only is it my message to we're good, we need to stop, but it's also my message for um, you know what's up. You already know what you need to know. And I think right now it's about standing on that. The high priestess is quite the immovable force. And more often than not, she's in this position where she doesn't have to say much because she's going to see exactly what's going on. If somebody is standing in front of her, she's going to be able to read them like a book. There's really not much that can be hidden there. And if somebody isn't ready to hear what she has to say, then she won't find a point in speaking. So, quiet month for you guys, but I think that there's a lot going on. I think you're doing a lot. I think you got a lot going on. And I think it's going to be good no matter what. I think it's very purposeful. I think it's preparing you for the next stage of your life. And I think that more than anything else, it's time. So hopefully that was helpful. And I'll see you guys next month.